meant to. All right, let me just go ahead and do this and knock this out. All right. Peace and blessings, everybody. I'm back. Haki Ami here, chilling. So, as you can see, we're going to have a very brief discussion this evening. I didn't get my webcam with the right one, so, but I'm not going to be too long. But I'm not wrong. But a lot of great things are happening. Hope you all are wonderful. Hope you all are, of course, in good health and strength. I am drinking some pomegranate juice, some orange juice, and some oregano. I have never, I rarely drink oregano. I've never drank it before, but I wanted to, sort of have this conversation. It's much needed because I think that due to my unique areas of study that I could provide some clarity that could help a few individuals out now. I did do another video. Actually, it's been a while. It's been maybe a few months now where I discussed Boyce Watkins and the Ice Cube interview. So I'm not going to go that far into that, but I wanted to. My sister down in Raleigh wanted me to do this conversation as I was sharing some key insights with her. She thought that I should, go live. So let me sort of just, add on to in terms of what I was sharing with her. So many people know that now Ice Cube perhaps maybe is considering or working with President Trump, I'll say the resident Trump. And, he did some video and I didn't see it at first, but, someone, sister texted me and said, "Have I heard the news?" I was like, "What news?" I'm like, is it some real news or, but, so something to the effect of I just thought, okay, well, I mean, he's in his position to do what's best, what he sees best for him. But you know, I think that unfortunately, many individuals, who are looking from the outside in, are sort of given their very very limited understandings, and I think that it would help for if they would talk to persons who have engaged in particular research and have some unique experience in various understandings. And I believe uh, between business and politics, uh, they would have a better grasp or a better understanding. Now, Ice is song, but uh, I ain't gonna go into all of the details, but he, in his No Vaseline song, is for those who were around during that time, or a lot of, I would say, hip hop heads are aware of his No Vaseline song. And in one of his hooks, I don't know if it was a hook, but he said, well, no, it wasn't a hook. It was just a verse. He said, "I never had dinner with the president. I never had dinner with the president. And if I saw you again," I had to look it up so I wouldn't, get the words right, so I would get them right. "And if I saw you again, bitch, 4 house ends in a ditch," something to that effect. And then he went into some profanity. So now, so he was saying that he was talking about Easy E, and Easy E met with, I believe that was the first president, G.W. Bush. So I say that to say how things change in the context of decisions. I know that Easy E thinking about these things, but I'm just curious in the bigger context as I am looking at, for instance, what experience and experiences does he have to grasp hold of an understanding to work wisely? And here's what I've been able to, because people, some people are advising people not to vote. We're having these debates and discussions, and I don't, you never hear me pushing either way, and or having that big of a conversation, because ultimately, and as Ice Cube did state, you know, it's going to be about wealth and ownership, certainly within the society, but you need various other forces to protect those resources. And I do believe that, having individuals in political position certainly could protect some of these interests if they have a proper grasp and understanding of who and where their priorities and interests are. So, with that being said, I'm a, I'm a double back on Ice Cube, but he was on this interview with Boyce Watkins, and they were more so grabbing at straws in the context of, you know, talking about what the presidential things. But one key thing that they never like really analyze or give a good concrete understanding of is, I mean, the president is a big, major position, of course, but you know, they haven't even touched the surface on some of these other, shall I say, congressional races, and that's where much of the legislation begins. That could, really have a check and balance of the power dynamics. But speaking for me and understanding how things, how an individual, and most of us don't have, the mass media that, shall I say, Ice Cube can garner. And so, some of these people, they having their little philosophical ideas and they make a decision, but they have no connections to any black lawmakers or grassroots organizers or organizations that could get some things done that need to get done from a grassroots level to build up to where, as I make the president do certain things, right? And so this is where my understanding of creating relationships, in different spaces, and it starts first and foremost on different community levels, and then you build up towards individuals that are in different positions. Because let me just be honest, and and shout out to my brother Donnie, uh, came in town from Memphis, so we went to Bus Boys and Poets in Hyattsville last night. So, um, and I was just explaining to him the reality is that most of these individuals who we elect, for instance, uh, generally speaking, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, 90% of them, they are not centered in Black consciousness, right? They're not centered in the movement, shall I say. So they're not organically from the people, if you will, of the community, right? And for the most part, they haven't built a base of wanted to, just have, add on to the Ice Cube thing and talk about Kanye West, of course, because I don't know, I guess sometimes I saw something about him doing a write in, and I'm just like, is this really going to be plot behind this? And I just saw something that Kanye, how they come up with these numbers, but allegedly he's worth 5 billion with a B. And supposed to be the richest person in hip hop or something, uh, richest artist in history or something. Now, here's what I want individuals to think about. Now, he took Dr. Claude Anderson's book to uh, Jared Kushner, who was Donald Trump's son, right? Who was Donald Trump's son, and he gave him the book. You know, because I'm listening to the voices and these other people, even people like Umar and Tariq, and a lot of people are angry, and then they have this thing about not voting or telling people not to vote or don't get something for your vote. And the reality is that it's only like a 10-minute process. And honestly, in the bigger picture of community development, community building, uh, these, shall I say, voting is just a smaller, minute aspect of that. And I don't want to minimize it because it does matter, who you actually have in on many different levels. But, for 15 minutes or 10 minutes, it may take longer sometimes. Sometimes it takes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. But to tell people to uh, intellectually to tell people not to vote is actually in position that you support, they owe you, right? I mean, you put them into this position. And so that's where you have to, kind of have these conversations of like, this is the mission, this is the objective, this is the want, this is the ask, shall I say. So I just want to know, why haven't Kanye West given Dr. Claude Anderson? And I don't know. Maybe he has, but you know, like it should be sort of. I'm not going to say it should be known, but we should see some businesses popping up. All of these people that have access to, tens of millions of dollars. Like you couldn't give $500,000, $1 million to Dr. Claude, but you perpetrating walking around with his book and going to meet with the president's son and saying, "Look what I got! I got this book," trying to represent as if you have some unique knowledge that uh, that other people need to know. And now people are looking at the relationship between you and Dr. Carl Anderson like it's something authentic. So I just want to know, if you felt the love so much, why haven't you actually reached out for him? So something ain't right with that picture. There's Anderson's book, and I know she's not tight with the Trumps or whatever, but gave it to him. Like, I'm going to expect you, Oprah, to have Dr. Claude Anderson on, or throw him some money or something. Like, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. So, I'm just saying, I don't know why Boyce. I've been listening to a few of his pieces, but he said something very, and it's illogical. And he tried to explain it, but he said that Kamala Harris and Candace Owens are pretty much the same. And no two people are the same. Like, let's just be real about everything. And, it's really disrespectful to Kamala just from, you know, pro white nationalist woman. There are some unique differences on some levels in policy. So let's just be real and get educated and enlightened. I have yet to hear any of these individuals, not Kanye West, not Dr. Boyce Watkins, not Ice Cube, say if they've studied the work of Professor Ron Walters. He has several books out. Let's see. One was the presidential elections from 1972 to 2000. And he was a political science professor both at the University of Maryland and at Howard University. Yeah, but sometimes when I was in DC for something, for a major conference or something, or even his other book was White Nationalism, Black Interests, Conservative Policy in America. And now he considered himself a practical nationalist. And this is what, unfortunately, the gap that, some of these people are actually missing. And even some of the Pan-Africanists, because, Ron Walters was kind of like in the mix with, the Jesse Jacksons, but he also was in the mix with NBUF, several different groups and the nationalists. He was at the Gary, Indiana conference back in, what was that, 72, and several other, was a part of the NAILS. It was a National African American Leadership Summit, and that was with Farrakhan, Jesse, Fume, several other individuals who else was there? Who else was a part of there? Ben Chavis, Dr. Reverend, I believe he's a Reverend, Dr. Ben Chavis. I know Dr. Ben Chavis certainly was a part of that. So I recall some of those early meetings, and Professor Warren Walters is deceased now, but his legacy certainly lives on. And actually, maybe 2.5 years ago, I was in DC at the Thurgood Marshall Center in DC, and there's a book that some of the previous professors I have somewhere. One of the professors, the current professor, wrote somebody write something for you. And speaking of that, I do have copies of the Elijah Cummings book. But someone wrote that about Professor Ron Walters as well. And, and it really explains he had that message with understanding. You see how you need to maneuver and position yourself, right? And understanding the limitations of these different parties. And let me just add one more book. If anybody knows the Kanye, and yes, we do need capital. We do, and the Ice Cubes and Boyce Watkins, and he certainly talks and speaks, and he's always kind of all over the place with his strategy, but you have to really produce something, and that goes for the ADOS people as well, and the FBA, and the Umars, and like, you're going to have to move to something more practical and substantive, right? So the last book that I'm going to mention is the one, he was from New York, but the book is called, I'm live, brother, I'm live. It's called The Peacock Elite. So someone just called me. I would encourage everybody to get that, definitely. And you'll have a good understanding, because there's a lot of statements being made, and these people, they don't have no key insights. Many of them, the Umars, and they've never been to the Black Congressional Caucus, and network with the international organizations that may be uh, present there, and the different lobbyists, the Black advocates that come that people need to know about. So I'm just saying that we need people who are thinkers and readers and organizers, and we need those that have resources and capital to come to the table and begin to think about the down ballot issues that are going on, and the different businesses that are going on, and the business people that are in place. So even in the state of Maryland, for instance, there's the Black Caucus, and the Black Caucus Foundation, which, I'm on the foundation. And I recall maybe last year, 2 years ago, even before I was actually on the board, we had several committees of just committees that were held by a delegate or two delegates. And we had like a Black business and economic committee. And we met, 6 months before the 90-day session in Annapolis. And I think that was a strong model because we had like 6 working groups, and it was just tangible that, persons like myself and those that support, me are looking at for what it's worth, but also looking at the global picture in terms of business, in terms of understanding history and understanding the wealth dynamic in this country. So some of these people, they've done well for themselves, but it's like they don't have the unfortunately, many of the Black educated classes, they don't know how to invest properly in the Black community and in Black institutions and the like, because we have too many confused people. People are wasteful, right? And they don't know how to direct the resources to educate the masses of the people, the right people as well. But that's key. You got to find leaders and develop these leaders so that they can go in and have influence in the communities and within different people, right? So that's all I wanted to drop, man. I mean, I didn't want to sound too hard, like I was sort of going in, but again, as to the whole legislative process, for instance, and how things have to go through a committee, and sometimes people it has to get out of a committee before it even goes to a floor of a vote, right? So with that being said, a lot of people are paying attention to the presidential races, but the reality is that there's still a lot of things that we certainly can have influence and power over, right? And that's when eventually they begin to, testify in Congress for whatever reason. I'm not sure what committee it was, but on the whole the tourism industry and how many Black tourists, uh, for instance, the museums and things like that, are excluded from this. I don't know how much it was, $2 million funding source that the state has. So that's all I have to say. It's time for people to really have some tangibles, and I'm not saying that they're sick, but there's someone like me in every single state. I would hope. Well, that's not possible, but what I'm saying is that we could build individuals in different states, but certainly Maryland is definitely a model. Maryland has the second largest uh, delegation of Black officials, and so if anything can be done on legislatively, it certainly can be Maryland. And so right now, I have the here, for instance, of members of the Black Caucus, and so I need for these individuals to certainly get behind someone and or beside or in front of, however you want to be, but support institution builders and resources that, like myself, that I'm connected to. So, holler at the Success Scholar. Go to follow me on Instagram, Success Scholar, as well as Twitter, Success Scholar #1 on Twitter. So I'm out, y'all. Peace and blessings. Everybody enjoy your evening, and I'll see you all soon. Peace.